Hello and welcome to Eyes Wide Open, a platform in which we will examine Christianity, the church, wider societal issues, and a particular favourite of mine, which is global security and international commerce. I am joined this evening by a very good and close friend of mine, Pastor Rob Turl. He is the pastor of a church on Orchard Park Estate, an estate which comes with a very unfortunate reputation. I would like to ask Rob several questions about his faith, the impact his faith has had upon his own life, and finally, what he thinks his faith, his belief in Christianity and its values, could have on the lives of other people. Rob has been a pastor in this church here on Orchard Park for 5 years now. He is married and has 2 small children. And as I said at the start, he is a very good and close friend of mine, but we do have divergent views on many issues. So I'd like to introduce Rob Turl. Thank you for showing up tonight, Rob. I know you are a very busy man and it's very hard to get time with you. So without further ado.
Thank you, Jeff. I always enjoy talking with you, so
Yes.
I'm very happy.
So
very happy.
I'm going to ask you first of all, you're a Christian and you make no bones about that. You're a pastor here, you wear your heart on your sleeve, as it were. But I have issues myself with the Christian message. So I'd like to ask you a few questions of my own. Now, my first question to you would be, do you believe that Adolf Hitler lived? Now, that may seem a strange line of reasoning, but I just want to ask you a few questions. Do you think Hitler existed?
I certainly do, yeah.
Okay. And you probably believe that because historical records tell you so, and we have a series of silly war films. Did you personally ever meet him?
I never met Adolf Hitler.
Do you know anyone who ever did?
I don't believe I have ever met anyone who's ever met Adolf Hitler.
Right. I personally have not met him either. And I probably can confidently assert that in 150 years from now, he'll be in the rear view mirror of history. He'll be a footnote. His legacy will be long gone in 200 years from now, long gone. Like anything like Elizabeth I in England. Just a footnote, really, in modern life. So if you've never met a man who lived just less than 100 years ago, you're asking a tall order for someone to believe in a man who lived 2,000 years ago. And I presume you never met him either. So why do you believe that Jesus existed? First of all, I don't deny there's historical evidence to support his existence. So I don't deny the legitimacy of his existence. I question the divinity of his existence. I don't deny for a moment he was human. Why do you and I not share the same view that of his divinity? Why would you say that he was divine, a man of God, or God made flesh? So
The evidence points in that direction, to put it bluntly. So, yeah, Adolf Hitler was, in my mind, a big blotch on history. Massive blotch on history. Horrible blotch on history. But Jesus Christ is someone who has split history in half like a knife. And not only done that, but kind of got underneath everything that makes what we are, and even as a country in the UK, what we are today. Even as we reject a lot of what Christianity is, it still informs so much of who we are and how we think. So why do I believe Jesus really was who he said he was, the Son of God? Because the evidence points there. Firstly, I would say the Bible points in that direction.
Okay.
People say immediately, well, you can't use the Bible to back up what you're saying because it's believer's bias, isn't it?
yes.
It's believer.
And also with blind faith, you don't need any facts. You can just blindly accept something. I mean, not so long ago, they blindly accepted that the earth was actually flat.
Yeah.
So
Except there are two facts about the Bible that you've got to contend with.
Okay.
And one is that the Bible is historical, like undeniably historical. So often people will say, well, the Bible's surely just in the area, in the arena, if you like, of myths and legends. Well, go and read it. And then go and check out other historical sources and realise that one thing you can't say about the Bible is that it's all made-up stories.
Right.
Because there are facts in there. There are pure historical facts in there that are backed up by the rest of history. So the Bible is a trustworthy source. But then what's really interesting is you go outside the Bible and you find people who were enemies of the Christian faith. Roman historians, Jewish historians, people who are just not naturally on board with the Christian message. And they're writing about Jesus too. So you've got a good basis for who Jesus is in terms of Jesus existed.
And I don't disqualify what you say
Yeah.
by his existence. I accept his existence. But some people will question the divinity of Christ.
Yeah.
That he was just a man. I've even heard him described as a terrorist by one person. You know, obviously lots of people say he was a good man, he was a healer, he was a teacher, he was a prophet.
Yeah.
And then we get to the crux of Christianity,
Yeah.
which for most people who struggle with Christianity will say the resurrection.
Yeah.
That a dead man came back to life. Why do you cite that as being what you could call a critical juncture in history?
Yeah, because this is good, because this is what takes us from Jesus existed to Jesus was who he says he was. And there's two reasons, well, there's loads of reasons, but there's two summary reasons, if you like, why I believe that Jesus is who he said he was. Firstly, because I know miracles exist.
Okay.
And so I know that the supernatural exists. And how do I know that? Well, I know it on the basis that any person could know it. And that is that the whole of, before you get to the resurrection, people say, how can you believe in that? How can you believe Jesus did these miracles? How can you believe that in a resurrection? Well, we all believe in miracles. Because whether you take the idea that the multiverse theory, there's always been something, wherever you go in terms of the origin of everything, ultimately, we all have to recognise that there has to be something beyond everything. Nothing can't create everything. So we all believe that there was some miraculous intervention that caused the universe to exist in the first place. So we sat on a miracle. We're literally, right now, we're sat on a miracle that's called life and existence. But then you get to the actual event of the resurrection, and that's where it's really interesting, because the resurrection itself has loads of details attached to it that if you were just trying to make up this story, if you were just like, you said, right, let's get the boys together and make up a big conspiracy. Let's gather everyone in. We're going to make up a conspiracy. There are just things in that story that you just wouldn't do.
Such as?
For example, the first people to encounter the empty tomb were women. Now, anyone watching this is immediately thinking, oh, he hates women. He's one of those traditionalists in the church. Not at all. But in that society, they didn't trust women. And yet the people who made up this story, in all the gospel accounts, have women as the first people to make it to the tomb. And then you've got all of the embarrassing details. So we think it's highly likely that the Apostle Peter was behind at least Mark's gospel. He was connected and, he was one of the eyewitnesses. Well, he's a joke. This is one of the key blokes in the story. And people talk about the victors writing history, and they always make it look glorious. And Peter looks like a joke. And so you've got the embarrassing details in there that just don't make sense if you're making up a story. The explanations, of course, that someone stole the body. That's the historical. That's the get out clause.
Yeah.
And yet, there's just no motivation in anybody around that time to steal the body of Jesus. The Romans didn't want to steal a body.
Can see that.
The Jewish leaders certainly didn't want to steal the body.
Because it would have proved the resurrection. Because they would have gone and found an empty tomb and said, he's risen, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, they would have said, we've got a body, just don't listen to these Christians anymore, just shut up, go in the corner. The disciples, well, they were chickens. They'd run down the road. They were miles away. They weren't even believing there was going to be a resurrection, really. And there's the Roman guard in place, which is not one soldier, it's a group of soldiers there to guard the way. So there's just so many details in that story that just don't make sense. Right. And that's why you've got many many atheists who've gone on the hunt to disprove Christianity and the resurrection have ended up going, so not only are we absolutely sure that Jesus existed, we can't deny that, but he is who he said he was, and he did what he did.
The claim is made that he left the tomb, that the stone was rolled away. So where did he go then? What happened next?
Yeah, yeah.
So the women go to the tomb.
Yeah.
They find that it's empty. Where did he go,
Yeah.
and who saw him?
Yeah. So Jesus then appears to various different disciples and eyewitnesses. It talks about 500 at one point, and there's various different encounters. Some of his close disciples, you've got Thomas, who says, unless I see the nail marks, I will not believe. And then Jesus says, well, there you go. There's some evidence for you. But what's striking then, as a result of that, here's another evidence for the resurrection. And this is why we believe in Christianity. Because let's be honest, people do crazy stuff for religion. Like I'm a pastor of a church, right? And I'm willing to admit, religious people do crazy stuff. And sometimes we do crazy stuff for things that are not even true, for reasons that are not even true. But you won't find many people in this world that are willing to suffer and even die for something that they categorically know is untrue. And that's what you have to say. If you don't believe in Jesus, the Son of God, if you don't believe in the resurrection, you have to say that these people were so nutty, and not just one of them. I mean, you might believe it if it's one. But this group of people were willing to suffer and even die for something that they could have just said, you know what, you're going to feed me to the lions, you're going to crucify me upside down, you're going to do it. I'm just going to be honest now, it wasn't true. And they didn't. They were willing to suffer for something that they categorically knew supposedly was a lie. And that's one of the most powerful.
Right.
The church explodes
Yes.
on the back of suffering.
Right. Okay. I'll ask you another question then. How long have you been a Christian?
I've been a Christian since I was a teenager.
Were you encouraged by your parents to go down that path?
My family, my wider family, and mostly not Christian.
So you're the black sheep?
In my nuclear family, my mum was always a churchgoer, but my dad is not a churchgoer.
Right, okay.
And to this day, would
Okay.
probably not call himself a believer.
Right, okay. So how did Christianity impact your life? I mean, what difference did it make for you?
Yeah,
So first of all, what were you like before your road to Damascus experience, as it were?
Yeah.
What were you like before?
Yeah, well, my road to Damascus experience was one of, I meet many people who have some radical encounters of Jesus, radical change when they become a Christian, when they get to
Yeah,
to
I've
know
heard
Jesus
of
as
that
Lord.
phenomenon, yes.
Yeah. For me, I was largely a nice little comfortable middle class boy, but for me, looking around at all of my mates, and you know, I'm going to school and I'm looking at these people in church and I'm looking at wider society and I'm going, well, either these people are mad in church or they're onto something. Surely they don't just turn up every Sunday for blind faith that you mentioned. Surely they've got some reason to believe this. So that then leads me onto a journey of discovery. So I'm privileged because at least growing up, I wasn't always in church. I was playing rugby often, but I was around church a lot. So I had that ability to at least go, where do I go? What do I read? Who do I talk to? And to ask all of those questions and to see, is there any reason, if you like, does the chair have legs? Can I sit on it? Can I trust it? Is it going to hold me up? Is this something that I can genuinely believe in? So that was my journey into faith.
Okay, yeah.
But you know what? How has it impacted me?
Yeah.
Because I think...
Would people have noticed a difference in you?
Yeah. Well, yes, and more as I've gone on, even at this stage of life, more and more. So there's two types of people in this world. There's people, I think, who walk around with gold stars on their chest, and there's people who walk around with black spots on their chest. So the black spot people are people that know deep down, whether they openly admit it, whether they try and hide it, they know that they've screwed up. They know that they've done wrong, and they know that if there was a God, let's just play the game that there is a God,
Yep.
that before him, they're screwed, they're in trouble. They're not going to stand up before him. The Bible calls him a holy God, a perfect God. They can't stand before him. They're guilty in court before God. And then you've got the people who walk around with gold stars, and that's people like me. Because I've grown up around enough moral stuff and religion to think, well, I'm quite a good guy. You know, I'm all right. Now, I know I've got my sins, but really, I'm one of the good ones, that I...
Can I ask you that about sin?
Yeah.
I understand the gold star and the black spot.
Yeah.
I get that. And I can understand people feeling that they haven't murdered. We always go to that one, don't we? We always say, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to say, they haven't robbed a bank.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Rather than we always go down the same old cliche, did they murder somebody? So they didn't rob a bank.
Yeah.
Right? So they haven't done anything really bad in their lives. And let's just say that they have, by and large, played by the rules, been fair and been honest.
Yeah.
Why would they, why have they got a black spot on them?
Yeah.
Why are they guilty?
Yeah.
What are they guilty of?
Because that's what we're saying, and that's where I'm getting to. Because the gold stars that I maybe growing up thought that I had, I realised were black spots. Because if my attitude is, I'm the Messiah, I'm okay, I'm good, then I am completely in that, look at me, a wonderful life, I'm all sorted, I'm all fine, completely ignoring the God who made me, living a life that, two fingers up to him. Two fingers up. Often one of the ways that people talk about sin is like helping children understand it is shove off God, I'm in charge, no to your rules. And that's a very self-righteous move. But it was the move of my life, I think, just naturally. It was natural to me. Shove off God, I'm in charge, no to your... I'll just do it my way because I don't need to listen to you. I don't need to listen to the designer. I don't need to listen to the manufacturer. What does he know? I'm me. And we'd never express that. And I would never express that in those words. I'd never talk like that. But I think it's the attitude, actually, when I'm honest, of how I live my life. And so that was for me. So my recognition was actually that self-righteousness is ugly. And it's ugly to God. And it's also ugly. We all know it's ugly. That judgmentalism. It creates judgmentalism. It's ugly. And it's actually a stain on society just as much as all of the obvious sins, the people that know they've done wrong, the people that, well, I could never go in church because you don't know what I've done some bad stuff. But that self-righteousness is just as ugly as that.
Okay. So you would say that Christianity has had a profound impact upon your life?
It's a humbling impact.
Right.
It's a humbling impact because
so were you
the person who knows they've got black spots has to reach out and say, I need you, you, Jesus. But the person who thinks that they've got gold stars has to come down and humble themselves, and that's a good thing.
Okay, moving on from that, the idea of not living your life for yourself. I think that's what you're getting at, that you surrender your life. How does that surrendering impact your life? I mean, give me a day in the life of Rob Turl before, a day in the life of Rob Turl after. Okay, so in one, you're ungodly, and in the other, you're godly. So what's Rob Turl ungodly like?
Well, I don't get a cape now I'm a Christian.
Okay.
I'm not Superman.
No?
But I am changed.
Okay.
And I am being changed. It's a journey. It's a growth. We're on a journey here to become more like Jesus. And fundamentally, what Jesus was like is he was not inward looking, he was outward looking. So there's the difference. Rob Turl without Jesus is selfish. We're so blessed in this country in so many ways. I live my comfortable lifestyle. I don't need to worry about the rubbish that other people in the world are going through, the brokenness and the mess, because I can stay safe and look after me. And number one, Jesus comes in, saves me of that sin, that attitude of rebellion against God. He takes the hit for me. And in doing that, I recognise I have one who has loved me, gave himself for me by dying at that cross. He took a punishment that I deserve, that we all deserve. And when you know you've been loved like that, then from the inside out, the heart of Christianity is, I now live a life of love. No, I still love myself too much, but I think the big change is that I'm looking outwards and I'm seeking to be like Christ in loving others, and that's a wonderful thing for our world.
Okay. I think moving on finally to another area that I'm interested in is I think it's a fair comment to make that we live in a multi-faith society. And among those faiths, there are growing other faiths that are outstripping the influence of Christianity.
Yeah.
In fact, I would almost go as far as to say we probably live in a sort of a supermarket of faiths now. Pick and choose which ones you want. And I can see there is an attraction to that kind of model. But the influence of Christianity has waned considerably. When you think that this was a country that abolished slavery and then imposed that abolition on the rest of the world, you know, it used its military might to gain what was the freedom of thousands of people. I don't know that we'd have a church in this country capable of doing anything these days, but aside from that other issue of Christianity seeming to be as silent as God appears to be, what could the Christianity that you believe in, the model that you've just given to me, how would that impact the lives of people on an estate that is blighted by a reputation, whether it's deserved or otherwise? There are real economic problems in Hull, it cannot be denied. There must be hard lives being lived out silently, possibly desperately. The Christian message that you have just proclaimed, which is beautiful and eloquent, how do you think that could help someone who's possibly unemployed, a single mum, in arrears with the rent, lives really day to day, sacrifices her own meal to feed her children? They're desperate lives. They are desperate lives. And for a country that claims it is one of the richest of the sixth richest country in the world, it's a stain on this country. It's a stain when there are, I don't want to get too involved in this, and when we have billionaires, and yet you can live just a few miles away from people who can't pay the rent. How would Christianity, do you think Christianity could solve or alleviate in some way those problems?
Yeah.
Is there a medicine in Christianity
Yeah.
that...
Christianity doesn't paper over the cracks. It's not plasters on gaping wounds. And that's one of the reasons maybe people don't rush to it, because we're always looking for the quick fix. That's what politics is doing. They do this and then we counter it by we increase welfare and then we decrease welfare. And we're always trying to put plasters over gaping cracks. But Christianity comes in, Jesus enters into our world and says relationship and life.
Right. Okay.
Relationship and life. So a relationship with God through Jesus Christ gives you hope for life to come. Now, you can't live without hope.
No.
You can't live without hope. So that's the starting point. Like, Jesus has saved me for heaven. I know where I'm going. I've now got hope in my life.
Right.
I'm forgiven. But then when you have that hope, it begins to transform every aspect of your life, your relationships with other people. In that, as I said earlier, I've become a new person in how I love and engage with people around me.
Can I just ask, sorry to interrupt you there, would you say that hope brings an inner joy, as it were, a peaceful, you can accept where you are knowing that it will end eventually because you will die. However long you may live, you are going to die. That's the one certainty we can all, everyone on the planet can at least agree on that one. So if you have hope, is that hope in the most in those adverse circumstances enough to get you through?
Well, yeah. There's an inner answer, there's a practical answer. This is the inner one.
Right.
That hope that gives you hope for eternal life. Jesus came to give two types of life. eternal life
Right.
for those who receive him, but also he said life to the full. So there is a fundamental change the moment someone becomes a Christian. Let me give you an example. Someone in our church, by all accounts, lived a life of quite stark sin,
Okay.
being inside.
Okay.
They get to a point where they realise they need forgiveness. They need Jesus. They repent. That's our word for the Bible's word for turning your life to Jesus. 180. I have that conversation. I'm there in the room as they make that decision finally, as they're humbled, if you like, as they're ready, as they're on their knees. And I don't tell many people. Someone very close to me says, "What's up with," let's call him Dave. "What's up with Dave?" There's a week later. I said, "Why?" "Completely different." Completely different. I said,
That noticeable.
"Yeah." I said, "He is completely different." I said, "And I'll tell you what's up with him. He's become a Christian. He's given his life to Jesus." And so that hope of eternal life has come into his life in a real immediate way and given him now life to the full. Like he's filled with joy, he's filled with hope, he's filled with that satisfaction in Jesus that I'm not forgotten, I am forgiven, and God is now with me in a way that you couldn't deny it. It was just a marked change. Now, Dave, as much as me, is not fully changed. They're on a journey, they're on a road, but it was noticeable. And then I think that's the life and that's the hope, but I think that then begins to change your relationships. So what does it make? You were asking, what difference does it make? Well, was it not, and you'll know the history maybe of this, but in Rome, when there was it the plague? I think it was the plague.
Okay.
Who was it who stayed back in Rome? When everyone fled, everyone tried to get out of there, everyone who could, everyone who had the money, ran away and went on holiday. But who stayed?
Well,
The Christians. Why? Because they'd been so changed, they were so satisfied, they were so content in what they had with their relationship with God and how they had encountered his love, that they were there to love other people in such a powerful way. So what difference does Christianity make? Well, Jesus comes, he saves people, he changes people, and in so doing, that completely changes society, communities, because suddenly you have people who love their neighbour to the point of giving their life for people that they don't even know or wouldn't have even cared about. That's how radical Christianity can be and should be. And sometimes, maybe we're so comfortable here, sometimes maybe we've lost our way as Christians. I would hold my hand up to that. We've lost our way as a church, but I can point to so many examples throughout the world where you see that radical love, society-changing love.
okay. I listened to everything you said, and I will go away and think about it seriously. I think we should probably wrap this up now, and it's been a pleasure, as always, to be in your company, Rob.
Thank you, Jeff.
As I say, you are a very dear and close friend of mine, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
I'd love to.
We won't talk about Christianity, we'll talk about, I don't know, something. But I'll want your Christian perspective on whatever it is that we decide that we'd like to talk about. Is that okay?
That's wonderful, thank you.
Brilliant. Right, I hope you've enjoyed this first edition of Eyes Wide Open. And I hope that you will join us again when we screen our second episode. So thank you very much for being here this evening and hope to see you again soon. So signing off now, this is Jeff Kay, this is Rob Turl, and we have to give thanks to Jeff Waring for all the technical support that he gave us, and to Simon Austin, who is faithfully manning all the cameras and lights and sound. So thank you very much and good night.